and welcome to We Will Talk About It, the Supernatural Rewatch podcast where we watch one episode every week, spoiler free. I'm Megan.
I'm Kat.
And this week we are talking about Season 1, Episode 18, Something Wicked. So the name of the episode, because most of the episodes have kind of been pretty simply named.
Yeah.
But this one comes from, it's a Shakespeare quote, and it comes from, I should say, the Scottish play. By the pricking of my fingers, something wicked this way comes.
It makes sense. Like, yeah, now you've said that, it makes sense based on what happens in this episode.
I mean, not necessarily the Scottish play stuff.
Oh, no, but that line you just said, like that line you just said, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it comes from. So this episode was written by Daniel Nauf and directed by Whitney Rancic. So our first female director in Supernatural so far. So get it, girl. I will say Daniel Nauf or Nauf, I'm not sure. It's Knauf, so I think I'm saying it correctly. I always look up like what else the writers have done and what else directors have done to see if they've done anything interesting. And he was one of the creators of a HBO shit series that I feel like nobody remembers or has heard of called Carnivale. No. It's from the early 2000s. It's like early HBO, pre or mid Sopranos, like just when HBO was being like, oh, we can really do some interesting shit with our TV. It's really Claire Duvall is in it.
Oh.
It's really ooky spooky. It's about this traveling carnival, and it's very like mystical and mysterious elements and good versus evil, and like
I'm getting American Gods. I'm getting that kind of vibe.
Not so much American Gods. I would say more American Horror Story.
Yeah,
but without the Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy. The Ryan Murphy sprinkle touch,
which is just dumping
everything.
Just a dump. It's an incredible series. It's one of those series that I think about a lot because it was really, really, it was ahead of its time. Like I think it only lasted 3 seasons and they kind of didn't tell the whole story. But like if it came out now, everyone would be obsessed with it. Like would be on Netflix. Everyone would be like, I have to watch this. Have you watched Carnivale? Like, so if you can find it, if you want to watch it, I highly recommend it.
Maybe on Binge, which is in Australia, has a lot of HBO library.
Yes. It's also on YouTube to rent if, like me, you find Binge really frustrating as an app. So
it is very frustrating as an app. A lot of apps like that though.
Yeah. So or if you don't want to have another subscription, which is also my current stress. But yeah, so I definitely recommend it. It's it's really interesting that he wrote this episode and then he wrote this kind of ooky spooky
Carnivale
TV show. Like, yeah. So, yeah.
Is he one of the main writers of that show?
He was one of the showrunners. So he was he was the Eric Kripke.
Gotcha.
Of the show.
I learned something about showrunners. There we go. Didn't know.
Yeah. So a showrunner is the person who guides the show, who will often write kind of major episodes that are part of massive story arc stuff, and like they're head of the writer's room, and it's kind of like their baby for the time that they run it.
The more you know. Star wipe.
So Eric Kripke is the current showrunner.
That makes sense.
Where we are in Supernatural.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Cool. I don't really have any preamble.
No, not this one. I did remember this episode. Hey-o! Only because I'm like, I thought this episode was in like season 4. No, I know, right?
You lose half a point for that.
I mean, you may have half a shot. Half a shot, guys, if you're playing at home.
Just take a sip of your drink.
Yeah, just take a nip.
Because you remembered the episode existed.
But just not in the right season.
Just in the wrong order.
In the wrong order, like way in the future. But yeah, I remembered it only because of what happens is, no spoilers, obviously spoiler for this episode because we're reviewing it, is it's the first time we go back, like and actually have a proper flashback of the young Sam and Dean.
Yes.
And I remembered this actor because I was like, at the time when I first watched it, I was like, holy shit, they did like the casting. Like, you know how sometimes when you watch an episode and they have like a flashback of them being a child and you're like, they're not even this.
Yeah.
It's not like a puppy where, you know, their fur changes like as they get older and you're just like, that person will not turn into our, you know, protagonist or one of the leads or whatever. It just doesn't happen. This you believe, especially when they do the fade in and fade out, like they do such a great job of like, you know, flashback to like now being in the episode. You can see.
Yeah.
And I enjoy like that kind of like attention to detail. As someone who is very attention to detail.
Yes.
I'm like, I believe this boy would turn to Dean.
Yes, I agree. They did an amazing job with casting kind of baby Sam and baby Dean.
Oh yeah, even baby Sam. Like baby Sam is also quite tall.
Yes.
And I was like, I like the little, you know, tap of the fedora to like the nod. Like the child actor who plays Sam in this episode is quite tall for his age.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those details. It's those details I like.
Yeah. I do also appreciate the flashbacks that we have are just more terrible more filter.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's how they distinguish, is it's just like it's practically black and white.
Yeah, it's that sepia is getting real sepia. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like
exactly. So we open on Fitchburg in Wisconsin. A young girl is praying, and then she goes to bed. She asks her dad, like, "Is mom coming home?" And dad says no. He's staying at the hospital. And it's sort of implied that her sister is sick, and that's why mum is still at the hospital.
Also, that again, I don't know what it is, but every time we see like an ooky spooky opening, like cold opening, why does the house look like the Amityville horror house? Like it always gives me, anyone who is in America and who can testify to house design, why a lot of it feels like a lot of these houses are very built wooden, creepy window positions. I don't understand, because our houses in Australia don't look like that, but also we're a young country in the sense of history, but a lot of the kind of style. So when we, my first line is like, God, that house looks like the Amityville Horror House.
I think that a lot of American houses just look like that, and obviously Canadian houses too, because this is all obviously filmed in Vancouver. But we do actually have someone who we can sort of ask now. I forgot to mention this before we started talking about the episode. We have had a couple of Twitter chats with Kenzie from the We Need to Talk About Sam podcast. It's like a Sam-centered podcast.
Love that.
And they have really helped unravel something which I need to touch on before we move forward, which is how do garbage disposals work?
Oh yeah, we, to throw back, we don't know, because we're in Australia. Turns out we do have them, because my best friend did have one growing up, but it essentially was just like to grind up stuff to make it easier to pass through pipes.
We have had it revealed that, yes, it is to break down material so you get less clogs and stuff. Occasionally, they did say apparently their dad would put like orange peels down there so it makes the sink smell nice. Yeah, so what I have learned is that it's not a garbage disposal. It doesn't dispose of anyone's garbage. Because I was like, so we had this conversation, this very, very weird Twitter conversation. And I was like, okay, so you're not like unwrapping a new packet of pasta and then putting the package in the garbage disposal, which was kind of what I was thinking.
Well, I was thinking,
because I was like, it's a garbage disposal, like, so you're disposing of your garbage through this method.
And where does it go?
Yeah, where does it go?
Like,
why would you do that? You're like shoving like,
plastics and stuff, and
like meat and stuff down. Like, why would you do this? Turns out nobody does that. That's not what it literally just is there to grind stuff up so that you don't get clogged drains, which to me, I would say, guys. So yeah, so we do sort of have someone who can answer our confusing questions, like why do all houses look like they're from the Amityville Horror? Kenzie, if you'd like to tell us. I'm sure maybe they don't. Again, maybe this is they're meant to look cookie spooky.
Yeah.
But that night, this night thing is pretty spooky. Like,
oh yeah, happens. This is straight up.
So that night, she's watching these tree branches like scraping and scratching, and she's sort of sitting up in bed looking a little bit freaked out. And then you see it looks like a tree branch at first, and this is like incredible, like visual reveal.
Yeah,
that suddenly like it's a hand, and Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars comes in. Right. Sometimes she gets the jokes, and it makes me happy.
Only because the Empire
attacks her, or like seems to like be doing something attacking her.
Yeah, open mouth whale.
And yeah, so Emperor Palpatine attacks her, and then we cut, because that was the cold open, to Sam and Dean arguing because they've gotten these coordinates from Dad. It's really interesting because obviously we've now know Dad's fine, and so they're getting sent these coordinates, and they're not like, my God, maybe Dad's meeting us there. Dean does say that, and Sam's like, strong disagree. Like, Sam doesn't think that Dad is going to meet them there. He's like, that's just not what's going to happen. Yeah. Dean is like, well, we're going to go, this is what Dad wants to do, so there must be something there. Yeah. Sam's like, there's nothing. I had a look last night. There's just nothing interesting happening in this town. Definitely nothing spooky happening in this town. So I don't really know what you think is going to be happening. And Dean sort of comes back and is like, well, I'm the older brother, so I'm always right. But I do love that he does a little smile at the end, like, lol, like he knows he's not always right. So they come into the town, they come into Fitchburg. I hope I'm saying that right. It has a lot of things in order that it's Fitchburg, and they're just sort of like looking around trying to figure out what's going on, and they realize Sam's looking out on a playground and is like, what's wrong with this picture? It's 4:15 and there's no kids on the playground. If you in your early 20s looked at a playground
I would
and
not.
saw it was empty and was like, that's weird that there's not a ton of kids. I wouldn't either. Like, I get it. I get that they had to have an inn for this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it is a good inn that's not weird, particularly when kids are involved. Like,
yeah. And a playground.
But, like,
if I see an empty playground, you know what I'm thinking? Like, no kids, vacant swings, my bottom no swing. Yeah. That's where I'm going. Like, I'm really like, see ya, I'm legging it to the swings. That's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
As a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Not as and I mean, granted, they're a little bit older and they have had a different upbringing than us. So obviously they can make those comments.
They're a lot more aware of their surroundings than us.
Yeah.
Dean goes into the park.
Yep.
And he talks to this woman who's watching the kids. And he does a really good job of kind of not being weird.
Which is good.
Yeah, like they play it once they get involved, it's fine, but I've just appreciated that this intro
is very soft steps.
It's very handled in a way that you don't feel uncomfortable. You're not like,
oh yeah,
Dean.
especially when, even though he's attractive, he's in a long leather coat.
Yeah.
And he's in a playground.
Yeah, so, and this woman's like, it's really sad, like these kids are getting sick.
Yep. Like 5 or 6 kids are in the hospital sick.
And, it's just really, really sad. And so I think everyone's keeping their kids close to home.
Yeah.
So now they sort of know that this is what they think their dad was wanting them to come and investigate.
Yep. Whatever this thing is.
So they go to the hospital.
Oh, God,
They decide to pretend to be from the CDC.
CDC doctors.
Centre for Disease Control, a agency that we've become very familiar with over the last 18 months of Miss COVID.
Yeah, Miss Rona.
Miss Rona. And so they go to speak to the doctors.
I love that Dean is just like, it's all confidence as he gives, and Sam being very upset. Sam, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like, bikini inspector?
Mm-hmm.
Bikini inspector? And Dean's just like, go on, you got confidence.
Yeah.
How about the delivery and confidence?
Yeah, firstly, Sam is 22 years old. He is not old enough
also that
to be a doctor. Yeah, he looks like a child.
He looks like a child with a pre-Bieber haircut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a Sam haircut. Bieber copied him.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because Bieber is, a fetus at this point?
Pretty much.
I do have the full description, thank you Supernatural Wiki as always, of the Bikini Inspector badge.
What?
So I'll read it to you. This agent is authorized to operate at any beach, park, or backyard pool party or warm climate locale in the world. No restrictions or limitations are to be placed on their visual or physical inspections. Violators will be subject to tickling and spanking.
Tickling and spanking? What?
Firstly, on all levels, as long as all these actions are consensual, I'm cool with it. I don't like the mild implication that some of it's not consensual.
Yeah,
but
like the groping.
But otherwise, I really appreciate the person that paused this or however this information was located and transcribed it. Thank you for doing the Lord's work as always, Supernatural Wiki.
It's almost it goes up there with the Dean ask curve.
The ask equation.
The equation?
The Ackles ask equation, I should say.
Yes, that's right.
Give it its formal theoretical term.
Yes, give it its correct pronunciation.
Yes.
It's up there with that. Someone has, like you said, has cometh with the Lord's worketh.
Yes.
And has, as you said, scribed literature to us.
Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate that too.
They speak to Dr. Heidecker, who is like, I was just about to call the CDC anyway because I'm really concerned about this. All of these kids are unconscious.
Yeah, how do you find out kind of, and it's such a, this is how you know they know how to play the game, right? Yeah. Because they're like, oh, I was going to call the CDC, the doctor is like, I was going to call the CDC. How did you beat me to it? And I love that it's either Sam or Dean is just like, oh, we had a GP, can't remember the name, refer it to us, and it sort of came across our desks, and we're coming this way anyway. So we stopped in. And
flawless lie, and it doesn't sound weird, and it's not out of the realms of possibility.
It doesn't sound. It's seamless.
Yeah. So all of the kids are unconscious, and the nurse or other doctor. I'm sorry, I shouldn't presume that she's a nurse because she's female. That's very, very rude of me. But one of the other medical professionals says that she's never seen it before the way that it travels. It travels through families, but only through the kids.
Yeah.
And as we all know, these days, that's unusual. Normally, if one family member gets sick, then all the family members get sick with a highly infectious disease.
Yeah.
And so they give the name of the person who most recently has been admitted, which was the dad with the two girls that we saw
at the beginning
in the cold open.
Also, just taking a couple step back, when Sam flashes his bikini inspector badge very quickly, very flip, to like the triage nurse, I'm gonna say, she gives him directions to the pediatric ward because that's where we're going. That's where the kids are. When they're walking past, Dean does eyeball standard creepy old lady in.
Oh yes,
creepy old lady, which doctor-y, vibey, facing a window that may or may not have bars in it, upside down cross, and kind of like milky eyes.
Yeah. So that's when they're first walking in, and she does look very creepy.
And she does turn to look at him.
I actually have two notes related to that sort of section. The first note is that I loved the scoring for this episode, like this kind of tinkly piano. I don't know. It's very different to what they've had in previous episodes, and I just really enjoyed.
Suspenseful,
but it was also, I don't know. There's just something about it was like kind of peaceful. And my second note that is just kind of an interesting, fun fact from the Catholic amongst us: an upside down cross is now considered like a satanic symbol, but it's actually not a satanic symbol in traditional Catholic iconography. It's actually representative of St. Peter, because St. Peter was crucified on a cross, an inverted cross. So he was crucified upside down.
Oh.
And because this is where I'm getting a bit vague, but I think he asked to be crucified upside down because he didn't want to be the same as Jesus, because he didn't consider himself to be on the same level as Jesus.
Oh,
he didn't. And so it's the St. Peter's cross is the inverted cross. It's now obviously come to mean like
devil
worship and satanic
Satan
stuff.
mistress and all that stuff.
But traditional Catholic iconography, it's actually a symbol of one of the earliest saints, St. Peter, who founded the Basilica in Rome.
Oh, there we go.
So where the Vatican is now. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I think this is not going to be our last upside down cross, and I just
you need to think
it's important just to know that like this is some Hollywood nonsense, which is fine. I'm cool with it. But it's also cool to know
the origins,
the real story. So they go to the house of the case of the dad and the two girls. The dad doesn't really give them a ton of helpful information, obviously, because he doesn't see this as anything other than a very upsetting disease that is slowly killing his children.
Yeah.
So they go to his house to investigate. They don't
because they know that he's going to be at the hospital for a while. Repping with his daughters.
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure they have everything, make sure his wife has everything that she needs because she's obviously with them. And they don't find anything in the EMF detectors. They're doing all this fancy business.
Also, I love how we've downgraded on the
I know.
No lasers.
No lasers this time.
I was like, that's the first thing I was like.
Clearly we're like, we can't afford this every episode, guys.
No, we are season 1. Maybe season 6 we can, but season 1, no.
But what they do find is a handprint on the windowsill where it's like rotted away. It's this long hand. It's the hand we see in the cold open. Very, very creepy. And you get the sense when they see this that this isn't the first time that Dean has seen.
Yeah. The look in Dean's face.
Yeah. So this is when we get our first flashback. And I think this is where we find out. I don't think we've found out previously, or it's been clear previously, that the jacket that Dean wears is their dad's jacket.
Yeah.
Which symbology. Look at the symbolism.
Yeah.
But we cut back. Sam and Dean, this is after their mum dies. Sam is very small. He's watching cartoons.
Dean is watching like He-Man or something.
Yeah. And Dean is looking at the picture of a Strieger hand as Dad gets ready to go on a hunt.
Looking at the journal. You can see a corner of the journal as such.
Yeah. As Dad's getting ready to go on a hunt, and he's reminding Dean about all of the rules and what he needs to do.
Because he's the older brother.
Has to keep Dean's, Sam safe and all of that sort of stuff. And
the whole, and I love the, shoot first, ask questions. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Shoot first, ask questions later. I love, like it's been instilled from quite a young age for Dean.
So I think we need to talk about this. all of this. We've talked a couple of times about like Sam having maybe more of an innocence and having maybe less trauma than Dean has. And I think that now in this episode, we really start to learn that if Sam has any sense of what a normal life is, it is because of Dean. It is because Dean worked so hard. And I just want to put it out there. You don't make children be the parent.
Nope.
Children don't get to be the parent instead of you. And like with John and with everything, I think the thing that for me is like I can understand a lot of people have quite a strong reaction to John and quite a strong reaction to all of this because they see themselves in it. They see their own childhood in it. They see experiences that they've had with parents who were absent in some form or another or expected them to be the parent when they were also children themselves. And I think as terrible as it is, that's kind of props to this show for creating something that's realistic to what happened. Like they didn't grow up going to like Hunter Academy where they learned with their dad how to be hunters to find the thing they killed their mum. Like their mum died in a horrific way. It fucked John up and it then fucked them up as well. Yeah. Like
it's what they call generational trauma.
Yeah. And so I think that this really starts to unravel that and that Sam didn't have a normal childhood at all. He grew up in motels, but the chances that he had these moments that he had to be normal to watch cartoons is because Dean took on all of this burden himself.
Yeah.
And he sort of wrapped himself in that.
And I think also there's that part, but also John didn't ask Dean. He told Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's I would say like a 60-40 split. Like 60% he was always going to do what his dad told him.
Mm-hmm.
And 40% he loved Sam. He was, because of that 60%, then he took on the burden of being the older brother, making sure he had food. He made sure he was clothed.
Mm-hmm.
He made granted he wasn't getting the money, but he was the one doing in old school, heteronormative roles. He was the mum. He was making, he was the bread, he was the homemaker. He was, even though it was SpaghettiOs.
Yeah.
I mean, yum. Right now, I'm like, I could go SpaghettiOs. It's cold outside.
Yeah.
Delicious. It's delicious. Warming to the heart. But anyway, it's sad. Like when I look back at that, like watching it most recently, I'm the same as you. You have a moment where you're like, hang on. John is putting the burden straight up because he is so in the tunnel of trauma that he is so like laser focused on, I must get the thing that killed Mary because that's, vengeance, and vindication. Therefore, all my dad responsibilities just have to fall on the person down, which is Dean.
Yeah. And that's wrong.
Yeah, it's so wrong.
I think I saw something somewhere at one point that John is a good and moral person, but a bad parent. And you can be both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you can be a good person and a terrible parent. I think that John falls into that category.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that this is such an interesting episode to explore where all of this dynamic came from and who Dean is and like why Dean got to this point and kind of where his, sort of not people pleasing, but like desire to
the heroism kind of
and his desire to live up to his dad's expectations and his desire to like earn his dad's respect because as we'll discuss in this episode, like something happened in this episode that in Dean's eyes destroyed the respect his dad had for him. And again,
Garting,
wrong actual child. Like it's not clear how old they are. It looks like Sam's maybe 4 or 5, so Dean would be like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I'd say Sam's about 5.
Yeah,
above 5 because he's not a whingy child.
No, but he's pretty small and unaware. So I would say 3 or 4, and so that makes Dean like 8 or 9. And you don't put 8 or 9-year-olds in charge of children. Just
and also just stoves.
Well, I mean that's fine. I mean, if you can trust a kid at 8 or 9, you should.
I know.
That's fine. You shouldn't trust them with another child.
No, and also
expect you to keep that child alive.
Also, in this episode, I also realized that Dean doesn't have a support person.
No,
if you think about it in the dynamics, who's Sam's immediate support?
Mm-hmm.
Dean.
Yeah.
When John goes away, who is John's essential keeping the Winchester family going. Dean.
Yeah.
When shit falls for Dean, who's picking up Dean?
Yeah.
It ain't John, because he's always away on hunting trips, or he's so obsessed with what he needs to kill.
Yeah.
And Sam he's trying to shelter, like, so he'll never go to Sam.
Yeah.
And it's like, no wonder Dean, like, why it manifests into abandonment issues.
Yeah. And
because
like
he's
why
always
he's
been
this
abandoned.
kind of, exactly. Like, everyone always leaves me. Like, we have 15 seasons to talk about this, and we'll definitely talk about this, who Dean has, who he can rely on and stuff like that.
Yep.
We've got stuff to talk
we
about.
We will talk about it.
We will talk about it in the future.
This
is not the last time.
No, this is not just a
because
one-off.
Other stuff that we want to talk about who could Dean rely on, who could maybe be there as a support person for Dean.
Yep.
Can't talk about that yet.
Can't talk about it yet because, again,
we're not there yet.
we're not there. We're not there yet. But this is a good jumping point to start this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that can be a really common thing with eldest children in really abusive relationships, like where the parents are not good parents.
No,
is that they feel like they're all alone in the world, and that they are the only ones that they can rely on. But their other responsibility is keeping everybody else safe and making sure they don't feel hurt and they feel this burden all the time. So I hope what we said came across well. When we're not like mental health professionals or anything like that.
We are not psychologists. We just make clear observations of things now that we're older. Like when you're watching this, when you were watching this at 17, and I watched this when I was in like mid-20s. Yeah. Didn't really like. There were some things I'm like, that's not good. But as you get older and you've had more experience and exposure, and your relationships change, be it with any kind of relationship, you kind of go, hang on, this is not what should be. And
like,
this shouldn't be the story of how Sam and Dean grew up.
Yeah.
But it is, and we can't change that. But again, it's...
And I think that it's more realistic than like a happy version.
Where you said, like, it's Academy, let's go to Hunter Academy.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate the realism of it. So they decide to stick around because now they've obviously found it. Dean explains to Sam that he thinks it's a striga, which is a creature that their dad had hunted back when they were kids, which is obviously part of that the flashback we were just discussing.
Yep.
And they decide to check into a motel, and that's when they meet Michael, who is the sassiest child I ever did meet, and I love him.
With that hair.
With that 2000s hair. So they're going to check in, and he asks if it's a king or two queens.
2 queens.
And Dean sort of says, 2 queens. And he's looks out the window, Michael, to see Sam, who looks a bit like a twink, let's be honest here. And he's like, I'll bet. And which is...
And Dean just looking at him going, you motherfucker.
Yeah, Dean's like, excuse me, what did you say? And he's like, the kid said something else, and then his mum comes in to finalize the transaction, and it has the most aggressive product placement ever
of the MasterCard.
Made me laugh so hard because I feel like product placement in TV has kind of drifted off in the last few years. Like everyone, like if you're watching a modern television show, they'll all have either a Windows or they'll have an Apple, and that'll be
if they don't have the licensing to do the product placement, they have like obnoxious stickers.
Yeah. Even
though you're like, that's clearly a MacBook, or that's clearly an iPhone, or that's clearly a Samsung phone. Or if it's Sony, when Sony makes their own movies, they only use Sony products. Like,
yeah, like it's more subtle now, where it's like no one really talks about it. It's just like you sort of see it, or they'll have the cars or whatever that they use, is particular brands and stuff like that. But this was so aggressive. Because he's like, do you take MasterCard? And then like puts it down as like big MasterCard. Made me laugh so hard. Yeah. And it's so stupid.
But the MasterCard looks really fake. I can't
I feel like maybe that's what they looked like, because
that very blue purple MasterCard.
Made me laugh so hard. Sam explains that strigas often disguise themselves as old women, and that might be where the idea of like an old crone comes from, because they go back generations and generations, and that they take what's called spiritus fetus, which is the life spirit from children.
Very Hansel and Gretel.
But again, very tapping into a lot of those really traditional kind of folk tales. And of course, Dean immediately thinks of our friend, the Ookie Spooky Woman from earlier.
Old Satan's mistress.
And so
this is the best scene. Oh, I forgot about this scene. That's so good.
Drink. So they break in. So they don't break into the hospital. They just kind of wander in. They've been established as CDC doctors now, even though they're
wearing leather jackets.
They're back dressed as Sam and Dean.
Yeah. But also, I love how Dean's like, she's blind. She won't see us coming.
Yeah.
Not a way to get into a room, Dean, but sure.
No, because so they said that the way to Sam was saying this, no one knows how to kill them, and Dean's like, there is a way. They're weak when they feed.
Yeah.
So if we can get it while it's feeding, iron rods, if we shoot them, that will kill it.
Yeah.
So Dad worked that out. So they go to speak to this old woman.
So great.
Or check out this old woman, and she turns out she's just an innocent old lady. Gives Dean the fright of his life.
Oh yeah, he is pooped his pants. He is like, oh man, and I just love that she's like Sam just straight in. It's like, oh, we're maintenance workers. She's like, great, fix that crossover there. I've been asking for it for ages. And Sam is just giving Dean like I can't believe you judged this poor old lady. Yeah. And Dean's like, oh no, mate, this bitch scared the fuck out of me. Like, yeah, I'm dead. And I love how he just like spins the cross around and it just perfectly. I'm like, yeah, what? Like, how did it end up like that? Yeah. Who did this? Who did this? And like, it keeps happening?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Who is putting an extra... Who in maintenance is just like, look, probably shouldn't have an upside down cross in a hospital.
Yeah.
Who in maintenance is just like, your job is maintenance. You have abundance of screws and a screwdriver or like a drill. Done.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, this woman is now obviously innocent, and at the same time, we see a child getting attacked.
Yeah.
And we find out that it is the younger brother of Michael, the sassy kid from the hotel.
Yeah. Asher? Is it?
Asher, yeah. Which is the most early 2000s. Oh. Like, this kid was born in like 2002 probably, and I'm like, this name tracks, and it also tracks that the older brother who would have been born late 90s is called Michael. Because that's like a normal name.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway. They find out that Asher has been taken ill. Michael's mum, Joanna, she's obviously panicking. She's trying to get in the car. She's like, turn off put up the no vacancy sign while I'm away. And she's like dropping her keys and dropping her stuff. And Dean's like, please let me drive you to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, this is where Dean, like, because Dean clearly relates to Asher as the older brother in the...
You mean Michael? You mean Michael?
Yes, Michael, sorry. Yep. As the older brother in the previous scene when we sort of meet Michael and he's being all sassy. Joanna also comes in as like, oh, can you go help get Asher like ready for bed? And so, you know, Dean's seeing these similarities of this, you know, she's obviously, or it's implied she's like a single mom and like trying to make a motel work. And that's like the motels, like running motels or running any kind of like accommodation business is like a 60-hour-a-week job.
Yeah.
I have a family member who owned a motel when I was growing up, and like they were able to retire pretty early. They put the work in, but like, they basically didn't go on holidays. They didn't do anything. They didn't leave the state, let alone the country, basically for years, because it was like 60 to 70 hours. So, you know, so he's clearly relating. And so Sam's doing some more research whilst Dean is taking Joanna to the hospital. When Sam is doing his investigating, he talks about the other places that this has happened. And the 3 towns that he mentions
tell me.
Ogdenville, North Haverbrook, and Brockway.
And my brain was like,
monorail!
Mono equals 1, rail equals rail. That concludes your training. When they're such a...
Let's roll it back.
Yes.
To explain, because again, there might be people who, unlike us.
Yes, true.
So let me explain this. These 3 towns are from The Simpsons. And very specifically, like the towns are referenced in other episodes, but very specifically it's referenced as the 3 towns that this guy had sold monorails to in the monorail episode, which I can't even remember what it's called. If you just... I'll put it in the show notes and I'll try and put it on like Instagram.
I was going to say Homosaucy, but that's not right.
No, I don't know what it's called. It's not important. But when I first watched this, because I don't know how much people watch The Simpsons these days compared to when we were kids and teenagers. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons growing up because Bart was really naughty and my mum was really worried about us being naughty, even though I was obviously a ginormous nerd who had no interest in being naughty. Like, I was obviously Lisa. But
it's actually called Marge versus the Monorail.
I was going to say, I felt like it was called Homer versus the Monorail, but then I was like, maybe that's wrong. But then when I was a teenager, I was allowed to watch The Simpsons, and it was on 6 p.m. every night, Channel 10.
Channel 10 after the news.
Yeah. And it was, and Wednesdays was new episodes from the current, whatever the current season was at the time.
Yeah.
And so the monorail episode is absolute classic episode. Go watch it. Go watch classic Simpsons, guys. If you have never watched The Simpsons, which I think
Disney
there's probably
Plus.
a generation now that haven't watched it.
Yeah, Disney Plus, like literally season 1 to season, because
someone who is,
to me, who is there's two people when it comes to Matt Groening, not comics, like cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
You're either a Futurama fan, or you're like, and I mean Stan, or you're a Simpsons stan. I'm a Simpsons stan, and do not get me wrong, I love Futurama, but early seasons Simpsons has a lot of nostalgic because my dad loved The Simpsons.
Yeah.
So we were allowed to watch it because my dad was like, I'm watching this. We have one TV. It's the 90s.
Yeah, my parents had like a teeny tiny TV in their bedroom.
Yep.
My dad also loved The Simpsons. He takes it a point of pride that he's literally been watching it since it was on the Tracy Ullman show. Like he watched it from like from OG, like the
80s.
But he didn't watch it around us. He would watch it in his room, basically away from us. Which fair enough, understandable.
Yeah, fair.
So it's an incredible episode. But when I saw this in 2006, this was like peak. I was watching The Simpsons every single night. Everyone was watching The Simpsons every single night.
Yep.
And I didn't know TV could do this because this isn't a pop culture reference.
No.
They're including this like these are real places. Like it's an in-joke that you have to know is coming to, like, you have to know the reference to understand that they're not talking about real places, that they're making this reference to this joke of like, I didn't know television could do that. Like I got pop culture stuff, like you're putting in Simpsons jokes and you're putting in stuff into TV. Yeah. Like I got, but the idea that they could just make this reference and like pretend like it's not, pretend like these, like it's real dialogue, it's a real thing that's happening. This is not the last time they do this.
Put them on the map, and by golly, did that put them on the map?
Yeah, and it's like, just the map of them. I will absolutely. I watched it the other night, and I'll absolutely put it on Instagram.
It's a great episode.
It's a great episode. Go watch The Simpsons, guys.
Go watch The Simpsons. Not the newer season, so.
Yeah. Watch. I don't know. Watch up until the Simpsons movie, and then I guess stop.
Yeah, pretty much. Because like the Simpsons movie, you can just watch on its own.
Yeah,
and it doesn't feed actually into the
series.
Yeah,
and I feel like after that is when it kind of declined.
Yeah,
like I'm sure it's still quite good, and I'm shocked that it's still on television. Like,
and it's been renewed work, for like another three seasons.
Bonkers. Good work, Matt Groening.
Get that coin.
Yeah, get that coin. So Sam is looking at this picture, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can see the doctor that we've been talking to, Heidecker." And Dean's like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, but this picture's from 1890. This is from one of the really early quote-unquote outbreaks where the Striga has obviously attacked."
Yeah.
And so Dean's in the hospital at this point, and he's looking at this doctor caring for these kids but actually killing them.
He's like breathing on them.
And he's just like, instantly furious. And so we cut now to back to the motel. Dean is like really, really angry that this doctor is taking advantage of his position and putting himself in a position. It's like perfect. Sam's really angry too. Het up Dean, when he's all het up, it's pretty hot.
Sure.
Like he's taking his jacket off, like he's got his like shirt on, but his like sleeves are. It was a lot, and I may have rewound it to watch it a second time because I was like, I'm into this
again, because like if you have not been following, I'm very Johnny come lately to these parties. Very Johnny come lately. See Loki, only just realized in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, I'm attracted to this now. I am very late to that party, to the internet.
Yes.
Going to the internet, very late. I love to be fashionably late.
You love to be fashionably late to
everything.
Everything.
Just everything culturally.
Yeah.
So hence the whole, do I find Dean attractive? This didn't pique my interest, but there was a point where Sam was talking, I think in his CD, going back a bit, where he's playing the CDC doctor, and I'm like, you kind of looking down at the doctor, and I was like, would I? If it was presented in that moment, I would have. I don't know why, and I think it's because he just owned it.
Yeah,
and I understand what you mean. Going back to your rolled up sleeves, he's all huffed, and he's all like,
he's like, I would have put a clip in him just out of the principle, and I was like, Is it hot in here? Is it hot in here?
Is it? It is very balmy.
I'm feeling a little flushed.
Yeah. And I'm feeling flushed, and my basement is feeling flushed.
Yes.
Yeah. It's flooded.
So Dean is obviously really angry. He's like, obviously, I'm not gonna like open fire in a pediatrics ward. And now we get our second flashback.
Yes, we do.
Because Dean's like, it came after Asher, it's gonna come after Michael. We have to nail this thing.
Yeah.
And Sam's very like, okay, like,
what's going on?
Why do you why he's like, why are you so sure that this is the same one that Dad hunted? And also, like, I don't understand. Dad doesn't leave things alive. Like,
Dad
he doesn't fail in his hunts. And Dean, we get the second flashback. So basically, we now get our second flashback to young Dean and Sam. Dean is trying to get Sam to have dinner. He has SpaghettiOs. Sam's like, I don't want them. He's like, but you said you wanted them. He's like, I want Lucky Charms. And Dean is like, well, there aren't anymore. And he's like, yes, there is. I saw the box. He's like, well, I haven't had a bowl yet. And Sam gives him puppy eyes. And of course he caves. And he, gives him the Lucky Charms instead of having them himself. And like, who knows what he ate for dinner because clearly he didn't want SpaghettiOs. Like, and then he puts Sam to bed and he sneaks out to play at the arcade.
I also like that when Sam is opening the box of like the brand new box, he gives Dean the toy.
Yeah. He's like, do you want the prize? And that, again, like, very sweet and very Sam.
Yeah, very much like, I know that I'm being a brat, but also here's my peace offering of like...
I don't even know that he knows he's been a brat, and I think that that's to the point of, like, Dean trying to shield him and trying to give him a normal childhood. That small kids are really selfish because they don't know any better.
That's true.
When small kids aren't super selfish, a lot of the time it's because they're aware of bigger adult stuff that they're not meant to be aware. Like, they're bigger adult things. Like, small kids just they have just desires and wants and needs. And so I think, like, it was just, like, genuine from his heart. Like, thanks for letting me have the Lucky Charms. Like, I don't think he thought he was being a brat. Like, I don't think he has that context of being a brat.
Self-awareness, yeah.
But that's good. Like, small kids should learn slowly if they're having inappropriate behavior instead of, like, getting away with bad behavior, if that makes, because he's not having bad behavior. He's literally a child. Like, he's 3 or 4 years old. He's so small. So,
True.
But again, Dean shouldn't be in charge of a 4-year-old.
No, he should not.
Anyway, Dean goes to the arcade. He plays some games. It's very clear that he's like, I just want to do something for me. I just want to be a kid for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would like to not have to shield with this burden because he knows what's out there.
Yeah.
He knows the supernatural world is out there now.
Yeah.
Because that's why he's protecting Sam and why he's looking after Sam. And you're right, he just wants to blow off some steam. And I hate this scene.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'm just like, fuck you, John. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You're a shit parent.
Yeah, so he comes back and the Striga is attacking Sam.
Yep.
He tries to get the gun and he doesn't really succeed.
He freezes almost. Like, he has the gun and he looks, and because he's a child, he doesn't shoot because he's a child.
And then John comes in, sort of gets the Striga away.
Doesn't kill him, unfortunately.
Doesn't kill it. And he's, hugging Sam and holding Sam and basically just goes to town on Dean.
Oh, yeah, like, rips him several new arseholes, and I don't appreciate.
No, like, I guess for John, he's coming from a place of fear. Like, he was so scared. He's lost Mary. He knows what he's hunting. It came for his son. Obviously completely inappropriate behavior. But you
can empathize with him.
You can empathize to the core of where it's coming from. That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay that Dean now blames himself. When we kind of come back to the present, Dean's like, he looked at me different from that day. Like,
I was never trusted again. Like, it's just a shit.
It's just shit. John is a shit.
Johnny is being real Johnny right now. He's being a Johnny Jerkface.
Yeah, he's a shit parent, and
also the haircut they gave him or the wig they gave him is very
70s,
very
brushed forward. So it would have been the 90s.
Yeah, it would have been the 90s.
I don't know. No. It would have been.
It would have been the 90s. It would have been like 91, 92. But still, sideburns were not the thing.
No.
And he had a bit. Look, the wig department didn't have a lot of wig choices.
Yeah. I don't know what else he was doing at this time. I don't know if he was on Grey's Anatomy yet or not.
Oh, was he on Grey's Anatomy?
He was on Grey's Anatomy. In like the super early days of Grey's Anatomy.
When did that start?
The same time as the Supernatural started. It was like the year of or the year before.
Shit.
I know.
Okay, cool. All right, that makes sense.
So I don't know if he was on Grey's already or not.
Well, he wasn't rocking that hairstyle.
No. He was obviously rocking a modern hairstyle. So I wonder if that just had some limitations of like you can't do stuff with your hair.
Yeah.
Because we know that you're going to film this other thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like, yeah. Hence they probably gave him a a wigette.
A wig, or just like styled his hair really weird.
Yeah, but it looked like he had like weird 70s sideburns
Yeah.
and a very buffonty front. I'm like, that. I mean, my dad was in the military, so he definitely didn't have buffonty hair because see military.
My dad looked like John Bon Jovi.
No, your dad looked like John Bon Jovi. My dad was military man. Feel like we should just. It's from the 90s.
I feel like we don't have good context on parent hair because my dad to this day has hair like past his shoulders. So Dean blames himself to this day, and he's like, I have unfinished business, and I can kind of hope or want Dean to get closure from this and to not feel like, but he was not responsible. He was a little child. Just want to make that clear. We're not on John's side for this.
No, 100%. If you haven't heard, I called him Johnny Jackface.
Yeah.
For a reason.
We're not on your side.
Nope.
But they realize it's going to come after Michael. They go and Dean explains to Michael exactly what's happening. Like, he tells him the truth.
I do like the fact that he leads in with it as well of, I hate that I have to tell you this.
Yeah.
Because he knows what this means for the rest of this kid's life. He knows because, hello, generational trauma. He knows what this means. And I love that he takes, like, Dean being Dean, takes that moment to go, I have to recognize that you are not going to be the same after this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so at first Michael says no. He's like, it's crazy. I can't believe any of this. This is nuts.
Yeah.
But eventually he comes around and says, yep, you can use me as bait to kill this thing. He's like, will this mean Asher gets better? And they're like, we don't know because we've never killed a streaker before. So, but we hope so. So they set up like a camera in his room.
The old nanny cam.
To keep an eye on him, and so that they know when it's attacking him, and they just sort of sit and wait and watch. And eventually the streaker does come, attacks Michael, and starts to feed off of him.
Yep.
Dean and Sam both jump in once he starts to feed to attack and try and kill the streaker. They think they've succeeded, then they fail, and then, obviously mirroring what's happened in the episode, the streaker comes and attacks Sam.
Yep.
And then Dean shoots it and shoots it a couple of extra times for good measure.
Yep. I mean, I would do the same.
Yeah, to make sure it's dead and to kind of, I guess, cleanse some of his emotions about everything, which is fine.
Yep.
Wish you would process in trauma, but I mean in therapy, but that's fine.
He's doing the Dean therapy.
Yeah,
shoot till it's dead.
Yes. And it turns out that killing the streaker does allow the children to recover. Asher wakes up.
Yep.
And Michael goes off with his mum to see Asher. And they sort of ask, like, because she mentions a doctor and is like, yeah, thinks they're all going to make a full recovery. A couple of kids are going to go home tomorrow. And they're like, oh, what about Dr. Heidecker? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He must have gone. Must be away today. He wasn't there today. They're like, yeah. And they all sort of look at each other like, yeah, it's because I wasted him in your kid's bedroom.
I wailed his ass with some iron rods.
Yeah, I was thinking
in a sexual way.
It was very helpful that he dissolved as well, because I was like, imagine having to carry a body out of a kid's bedroom in a motel and
but also the body is decrepit looking and also in a very raggedy Reaper cape. Yeah,
but they must be good at burying bodies because they don't always disappear. So they must have some skills. But also, I'm glad that they disappear. It just melted. I was gonna say
evaporated,
just like Obi-Wan Kenobi. The connections. But this is the end of the episode. Sam and Dean are getting ready to go, and Sam's kind of lamenting that Michael's innocence has been taken. Like, he's going to always know that there's genuinely scary bad stuff out there. He's like, sometimes I wish that I could be innocent still. And Dean's like, sometimes I wish that for you as well. And I think the for you is really telling that Dean
tried.
That Dean doesn't see that he deserves that for himself. Like, that he never wanted, that it never occurred.
Older sibling.
Being the substitute parent in a sibling relationship, he never thinks of it as for himself as having a way out or having it's never occurred to him that that's something he could wish for himself.
Yeah, because he's always, again, as I just said before, he is a support person for Sam. He was also essentially the family support person for their dad, because when John wasn't there, and we're starting to get more glimpse of that, John really wasn't there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Not even just this part of obviously the now of this of the season. when they were kids, he was really never around.
Yeah.
Because when the second flashback, I'm like, hang on, what does this particular thing have to do with the overall arc of finding who killed Mary?
Yeah.
It's like, I get the drive to find whatever killed Mary, but
Mhm.
what is the connection here? And I feel like as we go through the seasons, we'll find, we may find out or we may not.
But yeah, like he was hunting something else. He's just a hunter now. He's not just searching for the thing.
He's
to kill
not laser focused on the actual end game.
Yeah.
And why did it change? And it kind of, it's very selfish on the John part. So I understand what you're saying. Like, Dean never had the opportunity to realize that he could be innocent himself because he's always had burdens from the get-go. From the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, like you said, it's really interesting that, John isn't just, like, obviously they're incredible hunters because John was an incredible hunter, but the cost of that, and I'm sure John's sort of reasoning would be like, I'm saving lives, I'm saving families,
which is why Dean holds those things they're his mantras, because that's what Dad... He wants to please his dad. He's a people pleaser. I get that so much.
And, well, I don't even think he's a people pleaser. I think he just wants the respect of his dad. Like, I think it's really, like, I don't think he cares about anyone else necessarily, like, pleasing them or making them happy. Otherwise,
the other things. But, you're very right. Actually, you're very right. Like, he knows that because he holds his dad on such a pedestal, because in Dean's, and again, because of all the trauma, he's now masked his dad's shitty behavior as, these are attributes because Dad's gonna find the thing that killed Mum and everything's gonna this will be the end of the road, like, and Dad is like saving lives, and that's why, and like that's what's most important, is saving lives, and a lot to unpack here, guys. A lot to unpack. And I mean, the whole thing that we see, and I saw the recap in this particular episode, which is like, Dad wants us to keep doing things, hunting things, saving people. The family business. It's that mantra. And it wasn't always the mantra. It was always get the thing that got Mum. Yeah. And then at some point it changed. Yeah. Because I like to think that John has a conscience, and he was like, I have neglected a lot of things, like my children. How do I balance the scale? Like, how do I balance it all out? Oh, I also hunt other things because I'm finding other things as I'm trying to find the thing that killed Mum. Killed Mary, I should say. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what else we find out about John and about his motivations. But I think this episode gives us a lot of insight into how they ended up where they're at now. Like, mentally, their relationship, why it is the way that it is, this kind of really close relationship that they have as siblings. And that's because Dean raised Sam. Yeah, we're starting to realize why Dean also leans a bit on Sam as well. Yeah, and also why he doesn't look for stability in any other facet of his life. No. Like, he doesn't see any other life for himself, and he wishes that life, that Sam could have that life. So we've got 15 seasons to talk about this stuff, really guys. This is the start of some seriously. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Sorry for the last couple of weeks that episode releases have been a bit all over the shop. I promise eventually we will reveal the why. The reasons and the whys. But also one of the reasons, we did get locked down for a couple of days, and that kind of threw our schedule way out. So COVID continues to kind of run a little bit of havoc. But Miss Rona is just being Miss Rona. Yeah. So apologies for that. We are trying, ideally an episode comes out every Monday, but probably that won't happen for the rest of this season. But we're hoping to be back for next season. I hope you guys are still enjoying the podcast. If you do enjoy it, go and subscribe. Please do. If you can, please leave a review on iTunes. It allows other people to find us. You can follow us on Instagram at We Will Talk About It Pod. You can follow us on Twitter at We Will Talk Pod. Our Gmail is wewilltalkaboutitpod@gmail.com. Tell a friend, tell a work colleague, bug a family member. Bug a family member. Go listen to, if you want to have a more Sam specific experience, go listen to the We Need to Talk About Sam podcast. They're all sweethearts. Helping us with the translation of certain things that we don't get in Australia, i.e. garbage disposals. Yes. I feel like it should be called like a waste disposal. Or even not even, because waste is garbage in America, remember? Yeah. I know. Something, I don't know. Someone in PR needs to work that out. Or
Yeah,
marketing, not me.
it's misleading.
Yeah, it's
marketing.
misleading to us as
confused Australians.
Who obviously jump in kangaroo pouches and take our kangaroos to work.
We don't do that.
We actually don't do that.
To be so clear, I mean, I do get kangaroos near my house, but please, that's not normal.
No.
It's just where I live. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But that's not
that nature is around.
That's not the norm.
Look, kangaroos are not like hippity hoppeting down the main road.
No. They would get
in
murdered.
the city. They would be cleared out.
Yeah, they would be killed by cars. Anyway. So yeah, tell a friend, tell a work colleague, someone who thinks you might like this podcast.
Please do.
But in the meantime,
stay safe and process that generational traumas.
Bye.
Bye.